And Molly, it is so striking. President Trump is undeniably skilled at dictating the terms of a conversation. He's very good at drawing attention, changing narratives, the like, getting people to talk about what he wants to talk about. This is a moment, though, where he has failed to do that. He desperately wants the Epstein story to go away. It won't. And moreover, there's some acts of defiance. We had the House yesterday say, though they're being sent home early, but they're issuing a subpoena to DOJ to get more materials. We know the Department of Justice, the Deputy Attorney General, is going to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell today at a prison in Florida. This is going to keep getting headlines and, by all reporting, really angering the West Wing.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting, and I think it's important to remember Mike Johnson sent the House home because he was not sure how his members would vote. Right? He knew how Democrats would vote, but he didn't think he had the numbers to stop this. And I think that's really important because it shows like a lack of control over the caucus. And we've seen for the first 6 months of Trump's administration, every Republican has been in lockstep, refusing to challenge him on things like RFK Jr. being House Secretary, Human Services Secretary. And now here we are in a situation where they cannot get their caucus in line over something that there's just volumes of photos and, and drip, 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 drip. And I think that it's a hard narrative to shape.
It is so rare when there are cracks in the MAGA wall here, if you will. And yet we're seeing it now, no matter what President Trump tries. And one of the methods has been to try to distract, try to change topic of conversation. We saw that yesterday with Tulsi Gabbard in the White House briefing room trying to relitigate the 2016 Russia election interference. And that landed with a thud for many, including conservative columnist for the Free Press, Eli Lake. He's casting doubt on the director of national intelligence's wild claim that President Obama committed treason over his handling of the Russian election interference probe. In his latest piece, Lake writes in part this: as someone who was an early critic of the Russiagate narrative, I can report that Gabbard did not get the goods. Gabbard's evidence mainly relies on declassified intelligence assessments that state that Russia lacked the capability to change the tallies of state and local voting machines. That is true as far as it goes. But the original charge was not that Russia hacked the polling stations in the 2016 election. It was that it influenced the elections by hacking the Hillary Clinton campaign's emails and then leaking them to the internet. None of the evidence Gabbard has produced contradicts that claim. Russiagate really was a scandal. The FBI relied on bogus opposition research generated by the Clinton campaign to keep an unwarranted investigation into the Trump campaign alive after he was elected. But that scandal has largely been adjudicated. In the end, Trump secured his own vengeance. He won the 2024 election and is president today. That ought to be enough. So, Molly, we've heard, again, it was worth repeating. Eli Lake, deeply critical of the Russia probe.
Yeah.
So to have him come out and say what DNI presented yesterday was bogus, worth underscoring.
Yeah.
And it also just shows, again, an effort to change the conversation. We'll see if there's a there. I mean, she said there was going to be a criminal referral to DOJ for a former president. We've heard the word treason be attached to Barack Obama. That is a big, big deal. And we're going to stay on that because that's important. But it also does seem like a distraction to something that some Democrats say, to your point of a moment ago, of Mike Johnson sending home the House, that the cover-up is so big that they're shutting down essentially the government to keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the reason why Trump is worried about this, and it comes back to this, for Tony Fabrizio, Trump's big pollster, has this sort of idea that about 10% of his base is QAnon-friendly, right? That they are conspiracy-minded. And here we have a situation where this is the group that is very engaged with this. And he can't afford to lose those numbers. And I think that, we've seen so many times there have been things that this administration has done or that Trump 1.0 did where people in the mainstream media were horrified. But that didn't necessarily trickle down to his base. Now here's something where the base is really engaged, and that's a problem for Trump.
Yeah, we should also notice there were some Republican senators yesterday who also were deeply critical of the Gabbard findings and saying, look, this is settled matter. This isn't what we should be talking about.